Good morning. Is that what time it is?
It's still morning.
Good morning. I'm Jeremy, in case you guys don't remember that. I know I've been gone for a little while. Tyler found a new button while I was gone.
Our fearless leader's back.
Well, you guys had plenty of good substitutes while I was gone. You know, the guy who's significantly taller than I am, certainly. We'd had to adjust the mic up and all that stuff. So, but I'm glad it got back down to me. I'm glad I can do it now. So, episode 29. Quick introduction: Keith Gangl, Lisa Schreiber, Tyler Ellegard, Jeremy Bryan. Sweet. Episode 29. I gotta go. I'm putting my rec specs on today. I'm in. I've got my Rams throwback jersey on because 29 is Eric Dickerson, who that side has no idea who I'm talking about.
The young crew doesn't realize how good he was.
Is that who you're gonna dress up as for Halloween?
It would be so great. So I'll bust myself out. I had a pair of rec specs back.
Did you?
Oh yeah, because I was blind, so I had my eyes surgically enhanced here.
Wow.
So I was dead blind when I was probably from like 6th grade to until I got them done. So I had glasses, and so I had 1 year where I played basketball with rec specs, and then I saw myself in the mirror and I had to retire that. I was like, nope.
Did you have a headband on as well?
No, I wasn't cool enough for the headband. I mean, once you go rec specs, you've kind of eliminated cool completely, except if you're Eric Dickerson. He did a great job with it, but Jeremy could not get past. But I was a rec specs user. Could you see?
No, I had no problem. My eyes are good. Yeah. So no rec specs for me, but that was an unusual look in the time, especially a football player having a rec spec. So
he was the only one I ever remember.
No, he was such a stud. So
yeah,
and it's too bad Tyler and Lisa didn't really.
No idea.
Not your era. About. Yeah, no. This is. I mean, we might as well speak a different language to you right now, right? I'm guessing.
Right. I just needed a second to actually figure out what rec specs are, and I'm like, okay, I think it's a kind of glasses. What I figured out.
Yeah, and they had like the adjustable headband thing. They were not, if you were looking to be cool, except if you were Eric, it wasn't the way to go.
If you were playing something, a sport, a rec sport, right? That's the rec spec.
Because you didn't want to wear your glasses because you're going to get an elbow to the face eventually, which actually did happen to me too. I smashed mine.
Did you break them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yes. I had to in the game. I took them off and threw them, and they just skated across the thing. And I could not see a thing.
Hands and knees just doing the thing, searching around.
Other players are stepping all over them.
No, they did have to call a timeout because I'm like, I literally can't see right now. I don't even know if I'm guarding the guy on the same team as me right now. All right. As Tyler mentioned, this is our Halloween episode. Let's theme it up a little bit. Let's go across the room. Are there any plans to dress up amongst this group specifically?
This year? No.
Oh, Gangles, lame.
Tyler?
Lisa, I saw you nodding. No. I gotta go to Lisa.
I don't let you down, guys. I dress up. I think that's one of the first years I'm doing it.
Okay.
And I go as Wednesday Addams.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I always love the Addams Family, especially the 90s movie, the first ones, or the older ones.
Yep.
And Wednesday got her own series on Netflix last year, and that was very hyped. And
sure was.
So yeah.
Are you gonna wig it up? Are you doing the wig?
Wig. All the thing. The thing is on my shoulder.
Okay.
Velcro to the shoulder, a wig, a dress, the full thing.
Love it.
You have a party to go to, or just at your house?
We go to a party tomorrow as well. So yeah.
So are you gonna dress up for work that way too?
No,
Since there's a costume
you should.
contest.
No, I'm a professional, Tyler, please.
The only one in this room.
No, but it's a little bit uncomfortable for the whole day with the wig and everything, and I have the hair in the face, and
not your jam. I understand that.
Jeremy, I can't see you dressing up.
I have.
No,
this year?
Yeah.
No, this year I'm going to dress up as an angry, cranky dude. That's pretty much my costume every day. No, I am not going to dress up this year. So I will, when we hand out candy, I do have a Yoda hat. It literally is like I throw the Yoda hat on. It's got the ears that stick out. I do that one because in our neighborhood we light up the fires and stuff like that. So we've got the little campfires going. So I'll do that, and then I sit there and I just throw the bowl over there and I let people go that way. And anybody who's chilly can come hang by the fire.
Perfect.
So yeah,
That's
with my
pretty
Yoda
cool.
hat on.
Solid.
Tyler, you're not getting away.
I am not dressing up.
Okay.
Nor are we trick or treating.
What?
Whoa,
Even with the little
okay.
guys.
No.
What?
I'm not. Well, so 13-month-old.
Yeah.
Not
I
gonna-
know, but the other one.
The other one, I don't necessarily want to have the battle this year. We have enough battles
Just
with
buy
him
him
going
candy.
on, to let him fight over how much of the candy he gets to eat, and yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. Give me, since you're not dressing up this year, have you ever, and what was your favorite costume that you've done? Or are you've been the Grinch of Halloween
yeah,
your whole life?
I'm not a big Halloween guy.
Okay, got it.
I think so. Like in when I actually went trick or treating,
Yeah.
all of my buddies and I, we would just dress up as hockey players because we had it,
Because you had the gear.
and then we would rollerblade around so we could hit more houses faster. And
That's
Smart guy,
actually
too.
it's pretty smart.
and that's what we would do. So
Till one of them tumbles and the candy just goes flying.
yeah, so I've just never been a big Halloween guy. So
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Lisa, do you have a favorite costume that you've worn in the past? Nothing that sticks out?
Nothing that sticks out. So I haven't costumed that in years.
Okay.
And I don't know why I started it again. Anyways.
Because it's fun sometimes.
I mean, yeah, for once a year you can pretend to be someone else,
Exactly
right?
right. Gangl, what do you
Yeah,
got?
I
Come
have
on.
two actually. Yeah, dressed up as me, my good buddy of mine, dressed up the good old boys from Blues Brothers.
Oh,
Cowboy hat,
that cowboy
you know,
hat, yeah.
boots and everything.
Did you have the
out,
RV?
out in the bar and everything?
They have no idea what that is
Oh,
again.
no.
They
solid
are.
luck.
they
well,
are-
I know who the Blues Brothers are.
Yeah, it was the band playing though. It was the cowboy band.
Got
The other one was more when I was in high school, senior. That I just dressed up as a scarecrow, but I didn't go out. I'd like lay myself on the front steps, and so all the kids that came by would be like kicking my boots, and I'd just scare the pants off them. So that was a solid. Those were
Oh,
two
that
solid.
I mean, that just sounds uncomfortable.
Oh,
though. You
that
just gotta
was-
lay on the ground.
Oh, it was so
When's that next
fun.
kid coming along?
Yeah.
Especially where you grew up.
Yeah,
Like you'd have one kid every 20 minutes.
no, that and parents scared them
Oh,
all.
there you go. So Beth and I dressed up as Wayne and Garth one time. That might be
that's
my
good.
favorite.
That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
she made a great Garth. I was an okay Wayne, but yeah, she made a great Garth, and that was fun. That was a blast.
Good
So
stuff.
so you mentioned your Yoda hat. So the only costume that I still have, it's one of those just like pizza costumes. So
Okay.
you just literally throw it on over
Yeah.
your head and you're a pepperoni pizza. So I've got that. But last year we only had one person come by our house.
Well, you've got the.
We're in a new neighborhood, and
I don't know
there's
if that'll
not-
be the case this year. You might have to turn the lights off if you don't
Yeah.
want to
I
participate.
know. Well, we're talking about how do we explain to a 2.5-year-old on why we have to have our lights off in the house at 6 o'clock at night.
Why are there kids showing up
Yeah,
and getting
right,
candy
yeah.
and he does not?
So
That's maybe an
Looking all cool.
explanation.
So I have to tell one last story, which again, this will be my psychology. You guys can all be my therapists here. So this should tell you a lot. So when I was a kid, I didn't actually trick or treat much when I was a kid. And here was, so I went to like 3 houses down the road, and I came back to my mother rather distraught. And I asked her simply, why do I have to beg strangers for candy?
Wow.
And that was my last experience of
Yeah,
trick or
yeah.
treating. When I became an adult, I re-enjoyed Halloween from a different perspective, from going to a bar and having a good time. But as a kid, I hated it. I really did not like it that much. So
Dang.
yeah,
You guys missed
I'll have many therapy sessions for that going forward. All right. We are having a Halloween theme, but let's talk about the markets here a little bit. So let's do a hot button topic. I want to know what could spook the markets off this strong rally that we've seen. I mean, just to give people an indication, we're up over 20% both year to date. I think, Tyler, you sent this is the strongest election year or just
Yeah.
even year in general at this point now? Or?
Since 1999, it's the strongest S&P performance year that we've had since 1999.
Yeah. So on pace for
year
yeah.
to date.
Year to
yeah,
date,
yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
highest rate. So, and off a 20% year last year.
Yeah.
So pretty darn good. So I asked each one of you to do a little homework and just tell me one of the things that you're thinking that if we were putting our hand on and saying what could turn the markets around. So why don't we just start this way? So Tyler, why don't you lead off?
Well, okay, I've got 2.
Oh, boy,
But
don't take mine.
I
Tyler.
have a-
Right,
have
I
a-
just have one backup.
he's that nerd in front of the
I've got-
class. I've got 2
Yeah,
teachers.
right.
Well, so I'm gonna go. I'll go with my second one because I have a feeling that Keith or Lisa will hit the other one, and if they don't, then I'll throw it out there. But so I think consumers stretching themselves too thin is my kind of go-to number one spook.
Okay.
Reason for that is we actually just got GDP numbers out. GDP was actually quite strong. Consumer spending was actually pretty strong as well. It was up 3.7%. But going down to, if you look at what real disposable income was, it only grew 1.6%, meaning we're spending more than what we're actually getting in the door, net of inflation. And then if you start to look at some of the other data where you can look at delinquencies, 30-day plus, 90-day plus, in the 30-day plus category, you're starting to see credit cards go up. In delinquencies, you're starting to see auto loans. And what I found even more surprising is mortgage delinquencies, 30 days plus, is starting to trend higher as well. It's nowhere near 2008 levels.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll preface that.
Yeah.
Where it's not like dramatic, but it is trending.
But it's rising.
Higher. Yes.
Yep.
Then you can look out at the 90 days. If you look at that, you're starting to see auto loans and credit cards go up there as well. So I think the consumers, and again, you can dice this out by lower income households, higher income households, but I think at some point it becomes a tipping point for the lower income households where it tips over into the middle class and potentially even the higher class, where you start to see this broadening out of being stretched. And so, or just broader economic concern of can we support these delinquencies like we had, again, not saying we're going to see the 2008 type scenario again, but you could see a potentially mini version of that where you start to see all these people go into credit card defaults and whatnot. So I think that could be, I think that's my preceding factor for GDP going lower. Is where I think the spook comes in. Is because consumers are going to be stretched, which means maybe sometime next year, you're going to start to see revisions lower for GDP.
When would the market get concerned by that? Like, what would the catalyst be for the market to say, that's a problem?
I think for the market to actually react, it would be a lower GDP number, because clearly I don't think it's going to react to just real disposable income.
Right.
I think that's such a off the beaten path type of thing.
Yeah.
I think the other thing you could look at is the job availability. So if you combine disposable income at 1.6%, and then you start to look at the JOLTS numbers that came out yesterday of the jobs openings is much lower than what we expected. And now it's much more in line with the number of people unemployed, which means job fluidity, I guess you could call it, is going to be much harder to come by, which means we're no longer in the employee empowered area. It's going to be a employer empowered time period where they dictate what you get paid versus, you can switch jobs, leave a job and probably get a 10-15% raise. That's probably not going to happen anymore.
Gotcha.
So I think that consumer is just going to be stretched, and the fluidity of the job market and the concerns over a stretched consumer, I think, lead to a lower GDP. And I think the market will pay more attention to the overall GDP number.
Gotcha. Interesting. Gangl, just quickly, I want to talk to you about this for a second, but that usually manifests itself through financial earnings, right?
Yeah. You would see it, I think, in earnings kind of guidance going forward right now. And that's kind of where we're in earnings season right now, but we haven't seen a lot of them. We only seen 37%, 40% of the companies reported. So yeah, I think that would be.
But financials are largely done.
Financials are largely done. They haven't seen it, right? I mean,
not yet.
On the loan side of things.
But that's what I would say is that if Q4 rolls in and then they're talking about when they report Q1 in January, if they say numbers have gotten worse amongst our consumer base, I think that's when the market would be like, oh, is this actually really happening now?
I would say the lag for that would be probably July, maybe Q3 guidance for 2025.
Okay, so you're still pretty far out.
Yeah, that's where I think you start to see this kind of taper off.
Q4 is when the next quarter reporting, you could see if holidays, spend doesn't happen, that would play into what you're talking about.
I'm not too concerned about holiday spend, because I don't think, savings rate's still there. Like consumers are still getting the money they need to spend. But I think as this continues on, I think you would start to see it sometime in Q3 guidance for 2025. I think that's the first indication of it.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Lisa, what do you got?
Maybe to a note to the consumer. I've read that their consumer expectations around Christmas shopping are coming down, or it's not as high as last year because there are less days between Thanksgiving, which is so late, and Christmas. And also, which leads me to my next point: election. We're not over it yet.
Yeah.
Which kind of is obviously tempering consumers a little bit. I don't know if nobody heard about stress shopping, but
is that what you're doing?
But which leads me to my next point: the election, which obviously has no long-term implication. We've read about it at long. That no matter what administration we have, the market kind of doesn't care long term, and you should stick with your plan. But it has implications short term.
Yep.
And I think we already see it with Bitcoin is near all-time highs, gold is all-time highs. I mean, not all of that can be attributed to the election uncertainties, but I think there's still influences to it.
Sure.
Especially when we think that gold is traditionally the hedge against uncertainties, and Bitcoin kinda is seen to move into that direction. And also when we see all the bets, basically what asset classes and what sectors are in favor of whatever president will be elected, then we probably will see some positive or negative influences in some or the other sectors depending on who wins.
Yeah.
That could be for Trump, for example, financials, because probably less regulations under him than under her, than Bitcoin I mentioned. And with her win, maybe clean energy, infrastructure, home builders. So that could be like short-term influences there.
Sure.
Which I think do not spook the market overall, but it could be like a short dent or a short uncertainty.
Absolutely.
If you get like a full red wave or a full blue wave.
Yeah, right. And I think it's a tight race. So no matter if we will trust the polls or not, which is always kind of a weird thing because it's not really indicative for whoever wins. But I think it's overall the consensus that it's a short or a close race anyways. So,
That and it could take a while to actually declare a winner. I think that could muddy the waters. I think,
and I think that can.
I think in the short term, that's probably my biggest fear is that we delay this out and there's a bunch of stuff that goes on. Yeah, I mean, markets in short term run off sentiment, right? And election sentiment is going to be there either way, or even if, and especially if it's delayed in courts and all the other fun stuff that goes along with that. So yeah, absolutely. Agree with you. Good call. Gangl, what do you got?
Yeah, I think those two are good. I think Tyler's a little bit longer term. I think Lisa's is closer. The one I picked was inflation. If inflation starts backing up, I think that would really spook the markets, right? The Fed, finally cutting, and everybody expects them to cut, and all of a sudden they have to go reverse course and start raising interest rates. So I think that would be the short-term, medium-term catalyst that would really spook the market. Is the fact that, everything's all great, economy's good, let's, inflation's under control, we're cutting. I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah,
we missed
complete 180.
We missed something here, and you're starting to see a little. I mean, Tyler can probably weigh in this on the 10-year yield is actually backing up. It's up about 65, 70 basis points from the Fed cutting, which seems a little odd for most people. But I mean, a lot of people are pointing to economic strength. Some people are pointing to this Trump potential red wave, which would cause inflation. I don't know, Tyler, if you want to weigh in on that.
Well, I think so. My viewpoint is, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where it's like there's a historical spread between where the Fed funds rate is and where the 10-year Treasury is, and that goes for all rate yields on the Treasury curve. And if you just look at where the Fed funds is expected to be their long-term terminal rate, even if you call it 3%, it means that the 10-year should be around 4.2, 4.3% regardless. So
which is where we are.
Yeah, so
amazing.
I think the 3.6 that we got down to is just over exuberance of the market pricing in too much rate cuts.
Yeah.
And now we're just kind of normalizing where the traditional yield curve, what the traditional yield curve looks like.
Cool.
But yeah, to the point, tariffs lead to potential inflation because companies can't eat that cost necessarily. They can eat some of it. We saw it back in 2017 when they were first introduced, but then you just can't. We've had the inflation already. We've already raised the prices, and now if you had tariffs on top, you can't necessarily eat all of those costs, and some of those have to go onto the consumers, and henceforth
feeds into your
inflation.
into your worries.
Yes.
Yep. All right. I'm going to have a much more simple one. An NVIDIA missing guide down.
That was my
Yeah,
second one.
that's
But
a good
that's not
one.
I
until
think that would
November, third week of November.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
that would scare the bejesus out of the market because they'd be like, if you just look at valuations, right? And I've always said valuations are a poor timing tool, but they're expensive,
Mhm.
right? NVIDIA missing a guide down, and all of a sudden everybody's like, AI bubble starts to take sentiment. It's going to take a lot of multiples down with it, even if the businesses don't contract massively from it. And I honestly think like Microsoft and those they wouldn't really care that much. But NVIDIA doing that would cascade into, oh, maybe we need to bring all these multiples down. And then you're just a highly concentrated market. So you do that amongst those names. That's a pretty nasty thing. So that's my biggest, if I were to see that happen, I think the markets would not.
It's funny.
take
That was my
well.
second one. We had AMD report last night, and the quarter itself was good, but the guidance was so. Kind of gives you a little bit of a yellow flag for potentially NVIDIA.
Yeah. I mean, you just, inevitably these chip companies, they do that. It's cyclical business. At the end of the day, it's not going to go up forever. And it will happen at some point. It may not happen for 3 years. I don't know. But I think that would be the biggest one that would scare investors right now.
That was my second one. The only point I would add to that is I think like, for example, Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're all building their own large language models.
Yep.
And Meta is open architecture, so it's technically free for right now.
Yep.
I imagine they'll want to monetize that at some point.
I hope so.
No.
But then the rest of them,
Here you go.
there's a fee to use their large language models,
Sure.
right? So they're already making money on it.
Mhm.
So I think they'll be fine. It's just the chips will be hurt. I even would go as far as to say the derivatives of that AI play, where you get the utilities involved, or you get the real estate guys involved. I think that is where you get if NVIDIA does guide down or miss, I think that's where it can also spurt into some of these other sectors that would be traditionally the consumer staples that hold up well during those periods. I think it would actually hurt some of them.
Yeah, I think, again, like the companies you mentioned, I think their businesses would be fine. I still think they would take a hit.
Yes.
I still think that people just wouldn't care.
To your point, sentiment.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, let's pivot this a little bit. But I want to talk about stocks specifics and stocks that scare you. And I want to do it for whatever reason. Stocks you can't buy, stocks you always get wrong. They just scare you. Gangl, I'm going to start with you. You've been doing this probably the longest out of the crew here.
Yeah, longest.
What scares you, man?
The one that I haven't owned, that I always want to own, but I just can't find the timing right, has been Tesla.
Okay.
So the valuation just absolutely never makes sense. If you go back a few years ago, it was an EV company when EV sales were hardly anything, and the valuation's just out of the world. Now they finally start producing EVs, and I think the EV trend in general is definitely slowing. That and competition's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So they're no longer an EV player. They're now robo-taxis and energy storage. So it's like the valuation never made sense for EVs. So if you would have, my argument of not owning it back then because EVs wouldn't play out like they did, it was absolutely 100% right.
Yep.
But the valuation was so high, no one cared. And now they're changing to the next greatest thing. So I think Elon Musk is fantastic. He's a visionary. He does a great job of kind of putting out this carrot and having investors chase it. And then all of a sudden when you get there, all of a sudden, like, well, let's not look at this anymore. Now we're a technology company. We're no longer an EV play. So that's the one that I can't ever seem to get right. I want to own it. I just haven't pulled the trigger, and it's been volatile, right? Last year was great. This year's been kind of a struggle, but it reported a good quarter the other day. I thought it was okay quarter. Stock was up 25%.
Right.
So it's like, I was hoping it would go down. If it was down that much, then I again, that's a stock I would like to get in. I just haven't got in. So that's my rationale for it. And again, and then if you talk to anybody in California, it's like, you're an idiot for not owning it. There's Teslas all over the place. I'm like, yeah, well, the competition's coming and they're not selling what they said they're going to sell.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway.
Lisa?
So I can tell you maybe about a stock that probably the one stock I learned the most with.
Okay.
In a negative way, I would
Got
say.
it.
But I learned something from it.
Everybody's got battle scars.
Part of it.
We get a positive spin on it, and that's Plug Power.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a few years back now. And it was hyped and all the hydrogen frenzy, and it was not there yet. It's not there today either. Maybe in the future, but there was a lot of hype, and I got in at a very good point. fabulous returns. I was running with it, right?
You were the Wendy.
rolling
Yes,
this.
it was fabulous. And then greed kicked in and some biases, right? And some
Yeah.
overconfidence and all of that. And then I drove all the way back down. And I think overall, I mean, in the end, it was hurtful, but I think it was necessary. And again, it's a few years back, and I still remember it.
Oh, for sure. You'll remember
Because
those.
whenever I make decisions, I was like, this was what
it- yeah.
was back there, right?
Plug 2.0.
Right. It's like, do you show anybody? So it's like, it was a learning experience. It was hurtful, but I'm glad I did it, basically. The money was overseeable, I would say.
Gotcha.
It was not a massive loss, but it was a learning experience, I would say. But it's still not spook me. But it I mean, it was good that I
No,
got
it's
out.
good that you learned. I mean, Jeremy and I've been doing it a
And-
long time. That's
yeah.
what you do learn from those bad experiences. They're
Yeah.
not fun to go through.
I was gonna say she has a way better attitude about it than I do, because I still yell and swear about it.
Yeah.
Stocks that I bought 20 years ago that
Yeah.
were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's still hurtful, right?
Yeah.
And now that saying it in front of people, it's
Yeah.
like, that was me.
Yeah.
And I fell for the hype as well. And I did good for a pretty not long time, but I did good for
Yeah.
a time until it didn't,
Yeah.
right? And then it was hurtful. But again, it's just the way I deal with it. It's like, hey, I learned. This is what I showed on biases, basically.
Yeah.
And this is how I deal with it in the future, and it will be forever my pinned
Yeah.
Yeah.
ticker that I was
There it
like,
is.
remember, girl.
Tyler, what do you got?
I've got two.
Okay.
One is Lululemon.
All right.
So I'm notorious for jumping into stocks ahead of the quarters in
Yeah.
my personal account. Every time I buy Lululemon,
Mhm.
I swear that they put the earnings out, and stock trades down 7%. The times I don't, the stock trades up 7%. So
It
I
tends
can't-
to move a lot. on
I
the
can't
quarters.
That's a mystery.
I can't seem to get that one right. So
Yeah.
I've just decided we're just gonna leave it alone.
Gotcha.
Even though my wife works there.
Your wife works
we're-
there. You're constantly dressed in
Yeah,
Lululemon and stuff.
We're just,
so.
we're just gonna leave it alone. The other one I would say, shoot, what was I gonna say? I forgot.
Okay.
We'll-
I'll
we'll
do
stick
one,
with
and then
Lululemon.
if
Yeah, there you
if
go.
the light bulb comes on.
Enphase.
Oh,
Enphase.
okay.
Yeah.
I was actually going to tell you yours.
Yeah.
I had it.
Um,
I know. It's bad.
Enphase Energy was one that, obviously to your point, like the renewable energy wave.
Yeah.
Enphase was the best technology in this space, and I bought into it and in our energy portfolio.
Mhm.
And it turned out to be a disaster. So I'd probably, Enphase is probably one of my worst ones I've bought.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Still struggling.
What were
with
you gonna
see-
say? Was it?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd be like,
I was
remember
gonna
Enphase,
help
dude? Like I can trigger a
Oh.
memory for you if you want me to.
Good to know my boss. Is
Exactly. He's like,
tabs.
Oh, I remember something here.
Yeah.
Do not leave something out.
I'm gonna chicken out because I'm gonna give you a whole sector. I'm not that great at energy and making perfect calls on the energy. I'm honestly not that great at just pure cycle stuff. That you got to catch the cycle, right? So your ultra cyclicals, like Caterpillar reported
Yeah.
today, right? Those kinds of things where you buy at a trough and you sell at the peak and those kinds of things. I've just never been very good at that. And that's not and energy seems to play a lot in that. Like I try to buy on the cheap and live with it over longer periods of time, and man, it's tough sometimes.
he should have listened to the podcast last week.
Yeah.
Oh, I caught it.
The
I
boss,
caught
the
it.
boss man was recommending all kinds
I
of
know.
stuff for us.
And trust me, none of them are going to get bought on Jeremy's portfolio. No, and it's not even that he'll probably end up being right. But from my perspective, I would rather honestly just play the steady eddies and call it a day and mostly ignore that sector unless there's something incredibly dramatic that it forces me to make a call. But in the up and down waves of energy overall, I'm just not very good at it. I'm not good at making that call. I'm not good at finding the companies that are benefiting and hurting from that. So for the most part, I don't play as much.
Yeah.
So that sector scares me a little bit.
That's a good lesson to learn for people just investing is if there's the sector or stock that you don't do well with, there's plenty of others to play with.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of things you can do. And,
Yeah.
you know, your Tesla is an example. I get asked that all the time about
Yeah.
Tesla. Do you own it? Do you not own it? And that's the one probably the randos on the street or my
Yeah.
buddies and all that stuff ask me about the most. And I'm always like, no, there's thousands of other companies I can buy. I don't want to play that game. That's
Yeah.
not a game that I'm good at. That's not a game I play. I have plenty of other games that I can play that I'll still make money on.
for sure.
I can't believe you didn't think Enphase right away.
You're like, Enphase.
Like, I really got this for you. All right. Let's go quick here with just kind of, I want to ask the last Halloween theme, a little bit more fun. Scary movies, yay or nay? Tyler, start with you. Yay or nay?
No.
I kind of figured that. You don't watch movies in general.
Yeah.
So no interest, or are you scared?
Growing up, I was scared.
Okay.
Now, I've in the past, when I got into college, I watched some of the scary movies, and like now I'm sure they're better, but it was like, you know, when they're gonna pop out. So
Yeah.
It's like, is that? I don't
Okay.
know. So no.
Got it. The heart rate never rose from there's
When I was
the
younger,
creepy
yeah,
music
yeah,
cat and
but,
that.
but
Okay.
now it's like, okay, you start to hear the creep music, or you see someone go into a room all by themselves. Oh, shocker! What's gonna happen? I don't know.
So you sit there with the hand in front of your face, like, oh no, don't look.
Lisa, same question.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
2 scary movies.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, like real horror movies, like Tyler described it, where something jumps out or something
Yeah.
like that. I watch it again with the hand in front of my face when the music gets creepy and you know what's happening. I watch it, I love it, but I get a little bit paranoid after that, and I look under my bed, and every door has to be closed. So it's a little bit weird, but I still watch it. But even more, I love all of the true crime stuff.
Okay.
That's not really the scary
Nope.
movie, but it's like I really love that podcasts, like all the
Okay.
forensic files and stuff of this world that's out there. I love it.
Do you like the gruesome component of it or the mystery component of it?
Both, I would say.
Okay.
It's a mix of both.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. It's a
Little
bit
gore,
weird as
little
well.
gore added to Lisa's day. She's probably gonna be fine.
The more blood, the better.
Yeah. Gangl.
Yeah, I'm a big fan actually. So,
Okay.
and I like the scary stuff. So me, my daughters, and my son will watch. My wife doesn't.
Okay.
So I like scary, not gory.
Okay.
You know, your classic Shining,
Yep.
Exorcist,
Yep.
those kind of genre,
Mhm.
that kind of part of the
Yep.
scary part. So no, I do like them. Which is fun though, because it's fun when the kids want to watch it, and my wife's like, she's out. She goes watch something else.
I got nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in your vein too. I'm not a slasher movie guy,
Yeah.
but I love like the thrillers. Like 7 is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, that's
and that
great.
is that's probably my classic go-to about, and I'm not scared by it. I mean, but it's creepy.
Yeah.
I think creepy
Creepy,
movies are fine with me. Where there's something wrong with that fella.
Yeah, right.
I'm good with that one.
It's good stuff.
Oh, all right. You know what? I think it's time. Enjoy your Halloween, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. And I think we're going to talk elections probably at that point, won't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should be
So-
good.
Well,
Yeah, we
will
will.
have been decided. I
Well,
guess, 'cause
that's
it'll be
That's the
what-
question.
that
Day
might be
after.
something we end up talking about.
Yeah.
If not, us four can decide.
So we'll have something to talk about next week. Until then, take care, everybody.